Hey friends, what's going on? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Hey, Daf 35 of Masechta Yoma. Daf Lamed Hey is a pretty gewaldige daf. The first part, we really just kind of discussed the Mishnah about the Kohen Gadol moving on to start to do the Avoda of Yom Kippur. And then we get up to some interesting Agadata. I suspect that many of the Chevra have heard these Gemaras in the past, and maybe you're wondering, I wonder where that Gemara is. It's on Daf Lamed Hey of Masechta Yoma. So let us get started here. We're going to start mamash at the top of Daf Lamed Hey. Amud Aleph says the Gemara, My Parve Omer Yosef Parve Amagusha. Very, very interesting. So we said in the Mishnah that the Kohen Gadol, before he begins the Avoda of Yom Kippur, he goes to the Beis HaParveh, and over there he goes to the mikveh, and then he changes his clothing, Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, all that. The question is, what's his Beis HaParveh? What's Parveh? We keep on talking about the Beis HaParveh. What does Parveh mean? Lishkas Hamayim, Shara Mayim, I guess I get that, the water, I guess there's water there, or whatever. What's Parveh? So the Gemara says, Amar Yosef Parveh Amagusha. Interesting. So Yosef says there's a certain wizard, sorcerer, a magician. His name was Parveh. And it doesn't really say much more than that. Oh, he built it. A certain magician built it. His name was Parveh. So we call it the Parveh office. Let's go weiter. Persusadan Shalbutz. They then spread out a sheet of cotton as a divider between the Kohen Gadol and the people, and he got changed. Ma'ishna Shalbutz, how come it has to be cotton? Omev Kaine, Kedishiyakish Avodas Hayom, Bevigdei Butz, says of Kahana, so that he will recognize that, well, the Avoda of the day is about cotton. So we will even want that the sheet should be cotton as well. Alright? Wait, I'm saying cotton. I'm pretty sure I mean linen. Yeah, I mean linen. Let's go weiter. Okay, so the Mishnah had said that in the morning, the Kohen Gadol, according to Meir, he wears this is according to the Chachamim, that he wears these linen garments that are Shmona Aser, right there, 18 mana, so 1800 zuz is their value, and in the afternoon it is 1200. Okay, according to Reb Meir, in the morning it was 1200, in the afternoon it was 800 zuz value. Okay. What's the deal with the total? Right? Meaning, in the Mishnah we had said that according to the Chachamim, in the afternoon he wears these linen garments in the morning, linen garments that are 1800 mana, and in the afternoon, 1800 zuz, and in the afternoon it is 1200 zuz, and then the Mishnah says it's a total of 30,000 zuz, i.e. 330 months. Where am I coming up with these numbers? 1 second. 18, I don't know what I've been saying, but in the morning it was 18 mana according to Chacham. In the afternoon it was 12 mana for a total of 30 mana. Okay. Great. 18 mana, which is 1800 zuz, and 12 mana, which is 1200 zuz. And then, but 18 and 12 is 30, and I guess if you want to zuz it, so then I guess 3000 zuz. So 30 mana, 3000 zuz. So basically the Mishnah adds up for us 18 and 12 is 30. So the Gemara is asking, why does the Mishnah need to add 18 and 12 for us? We can just do it ourselves if we wanted to. So, what the Mishnah is just doing addition for us? How come we need the total of 30? And it's teaching us that you shouldn't do less than 30, meaning you want to have clothing that are valued at a total of 30. But if one part is less, mehani v'tofi'ani leislan ba. Now the point is that the important thing is that we need a total of 30, meaning we're saying that in the morning it's 18 mana, and in the afternoon it's 12 mana. Okay, if in the morning it was 17 mana, and in the afternoon it was 13 mana, that's also fine. As long as it adds up to at least 30. But everyone seems to be agreeing, both Reb Meir and the Chachamim seem to be agreeing that the clothing worn in the morning is more expensive than the clothing in the afternoon, right? According to Reb Meir, it is 12 mana in the morning and 800 zuz in the afternoon. According to the Chachamim, it's 18 mana in the morning and 12 mana in the afternoon. So both Reb Meir and the Chacham agree that the morning garments are more valuable, more expensive than the afternoon garments. Minalan. Where do we know this from? Amruvun b'der of Eloi, Amrika bad 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 bad, Muvchar bad. So it says Rafuna b'der of Eloi that the pasuk says bad 4 times when it comes to the avoda in the morning. So therefore we want a very expensive, very fine linen, and therefore that's why the morning avoda gets the more expensive garments. Meisvei, we have a kasha of love shebegad macherim v'lo yikadshu esam b'vigdeim. It says in the pasuk in Yechezkel that the Kohanim, and this is a reference, we're understanding this to be referring to Yom Kippur, and it's saying that the Kohanim v'lovshu begad macherim, they would go and wear other clothing. V'lo yikadshu esam b'vigdeim, they wouldn't bless the people in their clothes. Fine. This, I think, the Metzudas David said this was talking about something else. But what we want to say over here is Ma'alav Acherim Chshuvin Mehen. That when we're saying that V'lav Shebugad Macherim, we understand this to mean that they would put on other clothing to do the avoda of the afternoon of the second avoda of Yom Kippur, that they would put on the Big Day Lovin for a second time. And it says V'lav Shebugad Macherim. They would wear other clothing. And says the Gemara, my love, we want to assume that it means that they would put on other clothing the second time they went into the Kodesh HaKodashim that was more expensive than the first time around. And for the Gemara, no, when it says that they would put on other clothing when they would go into the Kodesh HaKodashim for the second time, it means it was less expensive than the first time around. Alright, so the first time around was more expensive, second time around was less expensive. Tani, it was taught in the Braisa, Rav Huna bar Yehuda, Tani Rav Huna bar Yehuda ba'amila, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. It was taught by Rav Huna bar Yehuda. Some say it was Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Achar shekolsa avodas tzibur. So after the Kohen Gadol finishes doing the avodas tzibur, so i.e., when he goes in, after he does the avodah the first time around, when he's burning the incense and doing avodah for the tzibur. If you have a Kohen Gadol whose mother made for him special garments, so for the avodas yachid, i.e., when he goes in the second time to the Kodesh HaKodashim to just collect the kafumachta that he left there after burning the Ketores initially. So this isn't really like an avodas tzibur. He just has to go in and remove what he had put there initially, because it's not nice to leave them there. So in that case, if he has garments that his mother made him, so he can wear them for that second avoda, which is an avodas yachid. It's not really a special avoda for the entire congregation. As long as he donates the clothing to be public, right? As long as they're not his own private clothing, as long as he makes them the property of the public, so he can wear the garments that his mother made him. Pshita, this is obvious. If he donated them to the public, why should he not be able to use them? Because I may have thought that maybe we should suspect that maybe he didn't really give it over to the community properly, so maybe he should not be allowed to wear them. Kamash Malan. So we're coming to learn that Itaka is allowed to wear this clothing that his mother made for him when he goes to retrieve the kafumachta from the Kodesh HaKodashim, as long as he donates it to the congregation, to the community. Amru Olavo Rabbi Shmuel ben Pabi, they said about Rabbi Shmuel ben Pabi Shasasalo Imo Ksonis Shomei Mana, that his mother made for him a tunic, a ksones, that was worth 100 mana. Our Mishnah had been talking about 12 mana, maybe 18 mana. 100 mana was this ksones. Vilovshav Ovid Ba'avodas Yachid, and Rabbi Shmuel ben Pabi would put on this very special, expensive ksones, and he would do the Avodas Yachid. He would go and collect the kafu machta in it on Yom Kippur. Umsar l'tzibur, and he donated the garment to the congregation. Amar Olav, Rabbi Elazar ben Charsom. They said about Rabbi Elazar ben Charsom. Now we're about to learn that Rabbi Elazar ben Charsom was mamish exorbitantly wealthy. And they said about Rabbi Elazar ben Charsom, Sha'asasalo imo ksonis mishtei ribo, that his mother made for him a ksonis from 10,000, so from 20,000 mana, like really, really expensive stuff. But his fellow Kohanim would not allow him to wear this unbelievably fancy ksonis, because it's like the emperor's clothing. That it was so fine and so expensive that you could mamish see through it, and it was as if he was naked. So we say, wait a second, how could it possibly be that you could see through this clothing and it's as though he was naked? Va'amar mar chutun kaful shisha, the threads of the clothing of the Kohanim were 6 thread. Each thread was made up of 6 threads. They were thick threads, and therefore, how could it be that it was impossible to see through? How could it be that it was possible to see through this clothing and it was as though he was naked? But in order for it to be kosher clothing, it would have to be very thick threads. How could you see through it? Says Abaye, well, it's like wine that you could see through a thick glass. Let's say you have a thick glass and you have wine in there, you could see the wine through the thick glass. So here also, even if the threads were thick, but they were so fine that you were able to see through them nonetheless. Very, very interesting. And now we get up to an extremely well-known Gemara. Extremely well-known Gemara. I suspect that almost everybody here at Babylon Talmud has heard of this Gemara, and you may not have known. I don't know if I knew it was here either. Lamaisa. Maybe somebody told me, I can't remember. But here it is. On our daf. Daf Lamed. Here we go. You guys ready? Good. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught. Ani v'ashiv v'rasha ba'in ledin. That in the future, a poor person and a wealthy person and an evil person, they are all going to come in judgment before God. La'ani omrim lo. And they say to the poor person, Mipnei lo asakta b'Torah? How come you didn't study Torah? Im omer, and if he says, Ani ayisi v'Torah b'mzonosai, and if he tries to make an excuse and say, well, I'm so poor, all I could think about was my next meal and how I'm going to survive. Omrim lo, so they say to this poor fellow, Klum ani ayisa yosem Hillel? Were you any poorer than Hillel Azaken? All of Hillel Azaken, they say about Hillel Azaken sheb'chol yom v'yoma ya'oseh u'mistaka b'tarpaik, that every single day he would go to work so that he can make a tarpaik of money. I don't know how much that is. Mistam, it's not a lot. Chetzu ayonos in the Shoma beis hamedrash v'chetzu l'farnosaso l'farnosas anshebeso. With half of this tarpaik, he would pay his tuition at the yeshiva of Shmaya and Avtalyon, and with his other half, that's what he would live off of. Pamachas lomotza l'staker. One time he couldn't even make that meager amount of money that day. And the guard of the Beis HaMedrash did not allow Hillel Azaken to enter into the Beis HaMedrash. He didn't have money to pay for the tuition, to pay the fee, so he was not allowed in the Beis HaMedrash. Olav nisla v'yashav al pi aruba k'dei yishma divrei Elokim chaim mipi Shmaya and Avtalyon. So he went and he climbed and he sat on the skylight so at least he could listen in and hear the Torah that was being learned by Shmaya and Avtalyon in the Beis HaMedrash. Also, Yoma Erev Shabbos. They say that day was an Erev Shabbos, a Friday, v'tkufas tevis, so it was mamish the middle of the winter. V'yard olav shelig min hashamayim, and it mamish snowed on Hillel, and Hillel did not budge. He sat there on the window listening in while the snow piled up on him. When it became daybreak, I guess they were mamish learning all night on Friday night, and then Shabbos morning it got light out. Omer lo Shmaya and Avtalyon. And Shmaya says to Avtalyon, Avtalyon, Achi, my brother Avtalyon, b'chol Yoma, bayis meir, v'ayom ofel. He says, I don't understand. Every single day, the Beis HaMedrash is always so bright. And today, it's so dark. Shema Yoma mu'unanu. Maybe it's a cloudy day. Hitzitzu einein, v'ro dmus adam baruba. They look up and they see, there's a person blocking the skylight. Umatzu olav rum shalosh amos sheleg. They went up to the roof and they found that piled up on Hillel Zaken was 3 amas, about 4.5 feet of snow piled up on Hillel Zaken, who did not move while he listened in on the Torah being learned by Shmaya and Avtalyon. Perku, they took him out, v'rechitzu, and they washed him up, v'sichu, and they put oil on him, v'oshivu k'neged hamadur, and they put him opposite a fire. Amru, they said, roizel chalol v'sashabes, it's befitting to be Mechal Shabbos for Hillel Zaken to make sure that he's going to be okay. Wow. I imagine that most people have heard that story. World famous. Hillel Zaken couldn't pay for the yeshiva, so he went up to listen in and he got frozen in snow. Wow. Ashir, if you have a fellow who's wealthy, they say to him, how come you didn't study Torah? If he says, look, I was very wealthy and I was always very busy with my business. They say to him, were you any wealthier than Rabbi Elazar? I figured he was going to say Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who was also extremely wealthy. But they say about Rabbi Elazar ben Charsom, Sheniach lo aviv 1,000 ayaros bayabashu chnegdan 1,000 sfinos bayam, that his father, he inherited from his father 1,000 cities and 1,000 boats. Uvchoyom bayom, and nonetheless, every single day, nod shel kemach, he would take a container of sorts of flour. I don't know what's a node. It was like a hide of flour. Al kseifa, on his shoulder. Malich meir leir, and he would schlep from city to city, mimdina limdina, or from state to state, lilmo Torah, to study Torah. Pamachas mitzau avadav. One time, his own servants found him. Now they didn't know that this fellow schlepping around with a skin of flour was their boss. And they forced him to do labor, to do work. That basically, if the servants of the person in charge would find you, they could say, look, you need to do a little bit of work for us. He said to him, look, leave me alone, I want to go study Torah. They said to him, he says, no way, Rabbi Elazar ben Charsom, he's in charge, and you have to do some work for him. So now the goes with Tzionim adds in over here, so he just paid them off, and he went to go study Torah. And he never went to check out his 1,000 boats and 1,000 cities. Rather, he would just sit and study Torah all day and all night. Rasha, if you have a fellow who's a nudnik, they say to him, how come you didn't study Torah? Says, look, I was a fancy guy and I was too busy with my Yetzer Hara. He says, are you any more beautiful than Yosef HaTzadik? They said about Yosef, every day the wife of Potiphar would try to seduce him. Begodim shalav shelo shachris, shalav shelo arvis, begodim shalav shelo arvis, shalav shelo shachris. She would never wear the same clothing twice. She would always try anew to tempt Yosef HaTzadik. The clothing that she wore in the morning, she would not wear in the evening. The clothing that she wore in the evening, she wouldn't be wearing the next morning. Always changing it up, always trying to entice Yosef HaTzadik. Amrlo, she said to Yosef HaTzadik, Hishamali, listen to me. Amarlo, Lav, he says, no, I ain't listening to you. Amrlo, she said to him, she says, look, I'm going to send you to jail. Amarlo, he said to Hashem Atir Asurim, the Eibishter gets people out of jail. I'm gonna bend over your stature. Hashem Zokev Kfufim, the Eibishter straightens those who are bent over. I'm gonna make you blind. Hashem B'kei Chivrim, the Eibishter gives sight to the blind. Nosna lo elif kikrei kesef l'shmoa elel lishkav etzla liosima. She gave him 1,000 kikars, I don't know, blocks of silver, so that he would sleep with her. V'lo ratzu l'shmoa elel. He was not interested to listen to her, to sleep with her in this world, and be with her to the world to come. Nimtza, Hillel Mechayeves Aniyim. So we see, Sachakol, in conclusion, that Hillel is Mechayev the Aniyim, Rabbi Elazar ben Chaysim Mechayeves Ashirim, Yosef Mechayeves Harshayim. Between Hillel, Rabbi Elazar ben Chaysim, and Yosef HaTzadik, the Aniyim, the Ashirim, and the Nudniks, it'll be hard for them to find an excuse. How come they didn't study Torah? Wow, that was famous stuff, right? Oh my goodness gracious! Here's the story about Hillel, the famous story about Hillel Tzaddik. Daf Lamed Hey, Masechta Yoma. Anyways, Chevra, so that was Daf Lamed Hey. The first part we discussed what's the beit Parveh, some magician named Parveh. Some random things about the price of the garments. Anyways, then we got to these very interesting agadatas about, if you try to give an excuse for how come we didn't study Torah, so we're gonna bring all sorts of kashas from, were you poorer than Hillel? Were you wealthier than Rabbi ben Chaysom? Were you more of a nudnik? Well, were you more beautiful than Yosef HaTzadik? And even so, he was able to keep up with the hold down his Yetzirah. Hakoponim. Chevre, I hope you enjoyed Daf Lamed Hey Masechta Yoma. Have a great day. Cheers.